You always have high hopes. We felt like we had a real good nucleus returning. The only thing I was worried about is a lot of other teams looked like they had more.
Coach, last year you were 7-3 for the season. What has made the big difference this year? Could you cite any individual performance?
Well, not so much an individual performance. I think some of our younger players who didn't have experience have grown up rather fast, and our veterans, our so-called experienced people, have played well and have worked hard, and we have come up with a good set of running backs, which has greatly complemented our passing game and has just made us a better balanced team.
You defeated William Fleming 19-14 last week in a pressure-packed game. What are your reflections on that contest?
Well, I think it was a whale of a football game. Probably one of the better ones I've watched, and I'm sure that all the fans were there really enjoyed it. It was a tough football game. They are very talented and are well physically, and they come at you real good, and we felt like that they would try to control the ball, which they certainly did, and we had to rely, being in the physical condition we were in, we had to rely on the big play, which is exactly, we were fortunate enough for it to happen to us.
Eddie, do you feel that you've passed your biggest hurdle with games left against Cave Spring, Northside, and Kennedy of Richmond? And I'm thinking primarily about Northside's surprise upset of Patrick Henry last week and Cave Spring's shutout of Lee of Stanton.
Well, of course, you always like to see football teams improve, and I'm sure these coaches are well pleased with the performance of their kids, but it sure didn't make it any easier for us, and we're just expecting 2 or 3 real tough football games, especially being in the physical condition that we're in at the present time.
With defending champion James Wood High apparently out of the state championship picture, who do you rate as the top AAA contenders at this point?
I would say Douglas Freeman, Woodrow Wilson, T.C. Williams, and we're still hanging in there.
Well, we were very fortunate. We had a heck of a coaching staff. We were just talking about the coaches that we had. A lot of the assistants became head coaches, and right now the big thing is the spread offense. Where they put 3 over here, 2 over here. We were doing that in the 70s. Yeah. Eddie Joyce was just an innovator. We had a guy named Dale Foster who was the defensive guy that wrote the book on the 5-2 slanting monster. I mean, we were very fortunate.
That book has been shown in some movies.
Yeah.
Oh, it is?
Radio.
Yeah.
Radio.
It's some coaches' best.
Star of the movie. It's another thing that you take for granted. I mean, it was incredible. And we always had the best stuff. I mean, Coach Joyce we used to have the best equipment. We'd go out with brand new footballs every game and new cleats every year. I mean, we were spoiled. I mean, we really were.
Our travel uniforms, I mean, they thought we were when we played Dobbins Center in Tennessee, they said, well, we thought we were playing the football team, not the golf team. Well, we played our games at Salem Municipal, which is still there, the old baseball field. It was always packed there, too. I mean, that's the way Salem or Andrew Lewis High School was back then. I mean, our games were packed, too. I mean, people standing around the field everywhere and stands full and, standing room only. So the second game of the year was Dobbins Bennett.
Yeah, they were tough.
They were from Tennessee. I think they were champions.
They were state champions the year before in Tennessee, right?
And that was a tough game. I don't remember the score.
10-0.
10-0.
We beat them 10-0 in Salem.
And then PH was another big game for us.
They were undefeated when we played.
We were both undefeated then.
And you scored 3 times on the same play, didn't you? Trap 3 times.
2 draws and
I thought all 3 were traps.
No, it was 2 draws and it was off tackle or trap.
It was trap.
That was a trap. All of them were over 50 yards.
We played PH, we played Northside, we played William Fleming, Cave Spring,
Lee of Stanton.
Stanton. Right. Lane of Charlottesville.
Lane.
That was a big school.
Yeah, that was a tough game too.
We never thought we were supposed to lose. I mean, we were talking earlier, all through Sandlot ball, JV ball, everything, we never lost. And so we came into that game just like all the others thinking we were going to win. I mean, in our whole career, we probably didn't lose 5 games total through our whole career.
Including Sandlot.
And our coaches instilled in us winning. You didn't think about losing. You just didn't do that.
Yeah, we had segregation in 1963, so we knew those guys. We were fine.
We didn't really understand what I can remember watching game film of them, and all their games were in the afternoon, Saturday afternoon. And come to find out, that's why it was. They didn't want to have a nighttime game because of the racial situation, but we had none of that.
We didn't really think much about it.
No.
We were kids. We didn't. It was just another day at school and a different person. So
I knew a lot of the guys because they had this program the Salem Rec did, and they would take us to parks, and they had T.W. Carver Park, and you play them in softball and stuff, and you got to know them.
Right.
But we also took and all went to the same school all the way through.
Right.
Where with T.C. Williams, they combined some schools together. I think an all-black school and all-white school.
3 schools.
Yeah.
Three schools.
And that could be a problem.
Yeah.
Where we had all grown up together, played rec ball against each other. We knew each other.
Yeah.
And we didn't have problems in school either. I mean, the football team, absolutely not. But even in school, we didn't have racial problems at all.
Even if you just combine any schools, you're going to have some issues.
Yeah.
White, black, whatever.
Right.
And it was all about football for us. Salem's a football town.
You think Salem's a football town now?
Yeah.
I mean, back then it was really. I mean, I'm not saying anything against now, but it was much smaller, and it was a sensation.
Yeah. And we definitely wasn't going to let something like that interfere with our football, because that's what everybody loved to do. That's what we loved.
Eddie, I've been looking over the rosters put out by the Virginia High School League, and I'm sure you're aware of it and have looked at it. And according to some fast addition, the T.C. Williams roster appears to be about 75, and half that for Andrew Lewis. Does that bother you?
Well, not a great deal. It boils down to a matter of them being able to play 11, and we can play 11. Of course, it's very comforting to look over on that bench and see all those nice specimens sitting over there, though.
But the problem comes, Eddie, when they can run so many 11s in after different plays.
Well, this is true, but the last few weeks of the season, Dexter, we've been had quite a few injuries, and we've gone through this week after week, and we've gotten somewhat tired late in third and fourth quarter, but we've held up pretty well and have been very fortunate so far.
Due to the possibility of running these specialized teams in, Eddie, will you make any changes in your game plan?
No, we'll pretty well go with what we've done in the previous 2 playoff games. Both of those clubs have been rather physical and rather talented, and we feel like that we will not alter too much. We will still go into the game throwing the ball, and we feel this is what we do best against this type team.
They've done a little passing throughout the season, Eddie. I believe they've had 7 shutouts. Do you look for a tough ground game Saturday afternoon?
Well, the basis of their offense, of course, is a veer offense, and this is what we hear so much about now, and they do a real good job with it. Their backs aren't big, but they're real quick. They have an excellent quarterback, and by the way, they can throw. They have an all-metropolitan Washington area tight end who is quite a football player. He catches and runs well and is just a fine specimen.
Is the team physically and mentally up for this game? And I'm speaking about the Wolverines.
Well, physically, we're about the same as we were for Douglas Freeman, just a few bruises from that game because of their size, but no serious injuries. Nobody will miss, and maybe a couple of our boys will be a little better. We're not real bad off physically, even though we have some kids out who we'd like to have back.
How about the coach? Are you up for this game mentally?
Well, it's certainly, an honor for us to be involved in the game. We feel like we're very fortunate to even have gotten this far, and of course we're not thinking about going down there to Victory Stadium for anything except, to win. We've gone this far, we're going to go all out. There's nothing to wait for. We're going to try to pull out everything we can.
It was a beautiful Saturday afternoon.
Blue sky.
We bright sun, and it was our first afternoon game. You know, we always played Friday nights, and I can remember being superstitious about having a Saturday game. You know, I had a lot of superstitions back in those days. So I didn't like the Saturday afternoon game. I wore stuff under my eyes, which I'd never done before. I did some things that I didn't normally do, you know. I don't think it mattered, though.
It was packed. It was packed. There was probably 22,000 here. Real loud.
Real loud.
That many?
Yeah.
Wow.
Exciting.
Full.
It was completely packed. There was a fountain down here. There was an armory down here. The parking space was over there, and it was just cars everywhere. It was just packed.
Well, the weather was good, and the game was not as good. And the other team, T.C. Williams, had about 100 kids, or 80 to 100 kids. I don't know how many did you say it was, Dwayne?
They claimed 66, but when you add them up, there were 70 some listed. So I don't know whether all of them made it or not, but 66 is what they kept saying. We had 38.
We came out in warm-ups and we were just talking about this. Everybody was going, well, you know, they're not that big. Hey, we're about as big as they were. Well, the linemen hadn't come out, and then the linemen came out, and it was like, oh my Lord.
And they did the thing circling the field,
and they started going
like
around
seen
the
on the
field.
movie.
They had as many seniors as we did players. And I remember they had a lot of players on that team. I don't know what their college careers were like, but they had a lot of them go to college right after that ball game.
And most of their starters had started at the previous high schools.
Yeah.
And you know, one thing that the movie, that's in the movie is that Gary Bertier got paralyzed from the car crash before the game. And he actually played in that game, to my knowledge, in the car crash after their banquet, the night of their banquet, after the season was over.
In fact, he was signed by Tech. Charlie Coffey was the coach.
Yep.
And he was signed, he was like the top recruit going to Tech. So he must have had the car accident right after he signed.
I want to say he was a great All-American.
He was. Right.
And then Julius Campbell, you remember Julius Campbell? He was their defensive end.
I faced 3 different tackles every series of play. They must bring 3 guys in to rotate them every 3 plays. And, you know, about at halftime, I'm sort of dragging a little bit. And those guys are fresh. They couldn't have got tired.
No.
I returned the opening kickoff. We used to run a reverse, and we had done that for our 3 playoff games. But the first play, running that reverse, I probably got hit harder than I did all year. I mean, I remember ending up about 5 yards, and out of bounds.
I think in the first quarter, we thought we recovered a fumble in the end zone.
Yes.
A punt. I think it was first quarter, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm. We could have gone up 7-0, and they said it was a muff, so they didn't give it to nobody.
And they gave it to them back on the 20.
Yeah.
Gave it to him.
So they didn't give
We
it to
thought
us.
we had a touchdown. And then we had a receiver, Jesse Lawson, dropped the pass in the end zone. And that was before it could have been 14-0.
Yeah.
We had our chances early.
And before Jesse dropped that pass, I remember he caught a little out pattern, maybe 3 or 4 yards out. This was like first, second offensive play of the game. And Gary Bertier came from the inside and hit Jesse and knocked him up under the bench where we were. And we went and grabbed Jesse, and his eyes were real big. And he said, Jesse, don't let him do that to you. So go on back out there and show him who's tough. It was downhill from there after that. I mean, they set the tone and set it pretty good, I thought.
Yeah. We could have played them 10 times and lost 10 times.
It was either 13 or 14-0 at half, and then, if I'm not mistaken, they scored twice in the second quarter, and then they scored twice in the fourth quarter.
No, it was.
I think so.
I thought it was over at half.
No, it was.
I thought it was done.
I remember
Then it sinks in.
Even
awful.
halftime, it was.
we all got on a bus and rode back through Salem. Remember?
Oh yeah.
After we
And
lost.
they gave us a big parade. Remember that?
That was that. Yeah,
It was
that
an
was.
awful feeling.
It was. It was. Riding that bus back.
It was a feeling we weren't used to, because like I said, we only lost 4 or 5 games in our whole career, sandlot, through our senior years. And it was terrible.
Well,
Yeah.
it was, Andrew Lewis had a big tradition. I mean, they started winning championships in the early 60s. They won a couple. And so when you grew up in Salem, which I sort of grew up outside of Salem, you know, everybody grew up looking to play football at Andrew Lewis. So just like G, they were talking about Sandlot. I played across town. We used to play them Sandlot football. I was still in Salem. I played over at Lakeside. But you know, you grew up. That's what you plan on doing, playing for Andrew Lewis.
The only loss I ever had in Sandlot was against Edgewood. and so
I wasn't going to bring that up, G, but appreciate it.
And they used to, you know, just talking about Victory Stadium, 4th of July, they used to fill the place up for everybody to sing songs. They had fireworks, and you know, I mean, it was pretty phenomenal.
See, they used to have Virginia Tech and VMI on Thanksgiving Day play here.
Even Virginia Tech and UVA in the Harvest Bowl years ago.
The Roanoke Buckskins.
Right.
Yeah.
Played here.
And there were some pro game
Semi-pro team.
scrimmages here.
Preseason stuff.
Yeah.
Colts in Philadelphia.
Was it Philadelphia or Dallas?
I think it was Colts in Philadelphia. One, you know, back.
Yeah.
I was working a job over here at the hospital, and I was walking back, and they had the big ball there, and that's when they were taking out the press box.
Oh, really?
And I just stood there and watched it, and I just couldn't believe it. And it didn't take much to bring it down.
Yeah,
It didn't take much.
It's ready to
I
come
remember the
down.
locker room, they were pretty bad.
Yeah.
Real bad.
It's a
It's
shame.
weird. It's eerie.
Sure has
It's a
changed.
shame. It's a shame that they couldn't have renovated it and
Yeah.
kept it.
Because it was an old stadium, but it was sort of,
It was pretty classy, though.
yeah, it was sort of neat.
It was pretty cool. Well, funny story with David and I, when you were JV, they'd let you dress out. And if you played in the JV game back in those days, you could not play in the varsity game. But it was still a big deal to dress out for the game. Well, they gave us both the same number. We were both number 21, and we were the brothers.
We looked at each other. We had the same number. But I'll tell you, one of my biggest memories, though, is we would come into the stadium over in Salem. We would walk from the school across, and we walked on pavement, and you could hear those metal spikes. And I still, to this day, can remember what that sounded like. Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
And we would come in the
And
back.
all the fans. And
But we would come in the back door of the locker room. We'd get dressed, do all of our pregame stuff and everything. When the game was over, we came in the locker room. Coach Joyce would talk to us. Then they would open these double doors. We would go across the field, and there would be 150 people lined up that we walked through leaving the stadium.
Right.
And as a freshman or sophomore, it's impressive. But then when you get older, you really appreciate it. You knew that the city was behind you, the town was behind you, and it was all football. And they were there. Over there in Salem Stadium, we would have anywhere from 9,000 to 12,000 people at a high school game. And that was a baseball field. It wasn't designed for football.
Yeah, we played on the infield.
Yeah.
Pictures, man, you went uphill to run down there.
That's true.
That's true.
But our support, we knew everybody in town was there to watch us play, and that meant a
A
lot.
lot of them just went to practice.
That's true.
I'll tell you what, though, you remembered as a young person all the tradition and everything with Andrew Lewis, and then when we went there, it wasn't in great shape. I mean, there was plaster falling off the walls, but it didn't matter. It was Andrew Lewis. We were the Wolverines, and it didn't matter. It was just a great place.
Another neat tradition that we had, before every game we had a team meal, usually a steak, and I mean it was a good meal. Always went to church, different church in Salem, and the minister would do a little service, and just little stuff like that, you know.
Tell you another funny story. Me and G were freshmen. We were going to EC Glass. We went down to the Frontier restaurant, and we're sitting there eating a pregame meal. G looks at me and goes, "You have any money?" And we asked one of the senior captains if we could borrow some money, and he just like, "You hear that?"
I forgot that.
G says, "You got any money I could borrow?" The seniors told us we didn't have to pay for it. So
I think it's a team that would never quit. It was always competitive, played as hard as they could throughout the game, and that's the reason we got to where we got, especially beat EC Glass being behind so much. That's what I would take from it.
Yeah, we were a bunch of overachievers. who just happened to play the Titans. I mean, that's the way it was. We just happened to play that team that they made a movie about.
And they combined 3 schools. We just happened to play them that year.
Yeah, the first year they combined 3 schools.
Lucky us.
Last one in the way.
Yeah. And you really don't, I don't look at it as we lost the state championship. I look at it as we got there,
Right.
I guess the journey.
Yeah.
And we could have played them 10 times and not beaten them.
That's right.
I see people every day that remember our team.
Mm-hmm.
That will bring it up. I mean, hardly a day goes by that. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.